Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Christian Music Growth Podcast. I'm Brendan, and this is Braden.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember, if you like what you're hearing, like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that. Today, we have a special guest. We have Aryn Michelle. I think I pronounced your name right. So,
You are Aryn Michelle. That's it.
yeah, thank you for joining us today. We
Sure.
are grateful to have you here. Can you start off, just tell us a little bit about your music background?
Sure. So I started writing music. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. When I was about 15 years old, I went to a singing competition and I did very poorly. Did not win any prizes. But the person who won the lady who won, she wrote her own music and accompanied herself while she sang. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That was the moment for me when I started writing. And so sometimes it's really great to lose and lose hard because it can help you change your path. But after that, I went to college for music. I studied classical music. The Lord works in mysterious ways. I use that actually now teaching. But anyways, I kept writing my own artist music all through college, even though I was studying classical music. And then I went to the Berklee College of Music for a few years to do songwriting. And then I started releasing my own stuff. In the beginning, my first couple albums, which you can't find streaming, but if you dig, you can find them for sale online in the dark corners of the internet. My first couple albums, I really wanted to be kind of a light in the darkness artist, like writing stuff from a Christian worldview, but that was not explicitly Christian. That's how I wanted God to use me. I had like a rock band. I wore spikes and the whole 9 yards, played in bars. And it was fun, but I kept bumping up to this wall of, I wasn't really connecting with the people who were showing up to support my music and to engage. And so I had a lot of helpful conversations with my dad. And I realized that I was trying to make music the way I wanted God to use me instead of seeing how he had uniquely designed and equipped me and the kind of artist that he had made me to be. And the kind of artist and person that I am is that I'm a preacher's kid, raised in a little Southern Baptist church. And I can really connect with people of faith who want to go deep in their faith. And so that kind of changed everything for me. So sorry, that was supposed to be a short answer, but the long answer is, so now I do explicitly faith-based music by choice because I feel like that's really what I've been called to do. But I do love musically to live on the fringe of I don't know how to say this. Not necessarily. It's not that I don't want to do what's popular, but I just want to do whatever God moves me to do. So a lot of times that doesn't align musically or lyrically with what's necessarily radio friendly, and that's okay. So in the last couple of years, I have done a lot of deep dives into biblical people, and I'm still going to be doing that in future projects because that's what I care about, is digging deep for people of faith to help the text even come more alive to them and more personal, more emotional. So that's what I do. My music genre wise is, to be honest, it's pretty eclectic. So if anyone out there is like, you know what, I would love to listen to an EP that is like folk, but also jazz, but a little country and just a sprinkling of electronic music, then just check out the last EP I released, because I covered all of that in about 4 songs, but I still think it's cohesive. It's still very much me. And so that's the kind of, I hope that answered your question. That's the kind of music I like to make.
That's very cool. About the EP, I think, sorry, I have a notepad, so like I'm just following a notepad in Spotify channels because I just like, it's Pariah, is that how I pronounce it right?
Yeah, Pariah was my last full-length album. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I remember covering Pariah Part 1 EP, so I remember listening for like when I was working with New Lyrics today, I did a review on it, so I just like, this music's like all over everything.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad I didn't make that connection. Yes, that was so that project was, each of the different songs was focusing on a different biblical person at a time in their life where they felt like they were an outcast, but like from person to person, wildly different. So there was a song about King David when he was, running and in hiding. And then there was a song about Leah from the book of Genesis, right? So they both have felt rejection, but in really different ways. And my whole process with the albums, like I was saying before, is to encourage people to think of people from the Bible as people with real emotions and like complicated feelings and scenarios. And I think, especially people like me who were raised in the church, sometimes we see those people as storybook characters that you cut out and put on a felt board, which is good, a good entryway as kids. But as we grow into the faith, we need to take it a little deeper and see those people for who they are, like all their flaws and sins and struggles and things we can learn from them that they had to overcome. So you didn't even ask me a question. I started riffing. So sorry.
No, you're good. This is what we do on our podcast. Brad, do you have anything you want to say or add?
Yeah. First, a fellow preacher kids here as well, so I definitely get the deal. But yeah, like checking out your music, like I've been following you, I think since 2019, and I love your style, love your lyrical way you do it. It's just all unique. Like you said, it's all blended musically, but lyrically, it's also something so unique. Like I listened to your last song, I think Fire Falling, if I got that name right.
Falling
And
like fire. Yeah.
and I love that song. So I just was curious, like, what is your approach to songwriting when you go in to write songs, whether about a character or about an event or about real feelings? Like, how do you approach that in such a unique way?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate all the compliments. Thank you so much. Yeah, Falling Like Fire. So I'm currently releasing. So after Pariah was done, I started releasing. I'm trying to make this as least complicated as possible. It's eventually going to be a full 12-song album called Wild, Beautiful, Dangerous, but it's broken apart into 3 EPs. There's Beautiful, those are the Jesus songs. And then Falling Like Fire was the first song of the dangerous half of that. So the whole album is like 3 movement of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and Old Testament, Gospels, the rest of the New Testament. And so eventually it'll be one big thing. I'm getting to the answer to your question, I promise. So Falling Like Fire, so I knew I wanted to do this. And so the answer to your question is a lot of times the very first piece for me is what is the like stepping back and saying, what is the concept of this whole project? Like having a good foundational idea of what the whole project is, and then breaking it up into pieces. And that really informs what I choose to write about. Because to me, that helps organize my brain, helps keep the big idea of the whole concept focused. And so it's freeing in a lot of ways because I'm like, okay, I know I wanted to do this, Wild, Beautiful, Dangerous. And so with the dangerous piece, I'm like, well, where do I start? Where do I start? What happens right after Jesus ascended? Well, I got to talk about the manifestation of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. We have to start there. So I was like, well, I have to write a song about Pentecost. That's pretty crazy. I haven't heard a whole lot of songs about Pentecost that are not like necessarily worship songs. Because I wouldn't really consider myself a worship writer. I've co-written and worked with a lot of people, in a worship context. I love worship music, but that's not really my gifting. As a writer and an artist, it's not top tier gifting for me. So how do I write a song about Pentecost that feels like a story song? Like if someone was there, like in the upper room waiting for this to happen, what would they say? And I try to use language that doesn't feel biblical, only because I want people to put themselves in that person's shoes. So I want to free their thoughts with language that they might say. So like the opening line of that song has been sitting tight in the city for a week long. I'm waiting for a sign for a windfall. Like that's something that I would say more in modern language. Like I'm just trying to put myself in that place. So, and I do a lot of co-writing. So that's the other piece of it, is having a formed big idea, putting myself in that personal space of whoever experienced it, relating it to how I experienced those kind of feelings. Like, what did I feel like when I first encountered the Holy Spirit? But then bringing in other artists who I really respect their artistic voices, and then just collaborating a lot. So like on Pariah, of the 10 songs on that album, I co-wrote 9 of them with different writers and artists on every song, because to me that helps albums not feel stale. I'm again not throwing shade on anyone that writes all their own stuff and never co-writes, but for me, like, I want to get different people's faith story and voices in each one of those songs, so that they could never all sound the same, because there's so many different people on them. So for Fallen Like Fire, actually, I wrote that song, and I kind of got to I was trying to make that one of the ones I was going to write for just myself. Like, I was going to be the only writer on it. And it was just, to be honest, it was too weird. Like, it was melodically all over the place. So I brought in my friend Paul Deemer, and I was like, Paul, I feel like the Spirit is telling me you were the one who can fix this song. So I honestly try to listen to the prompting of the Holy Spirit in all of those situations. If I have a song start, be like, who is the person who can help me take this to the finish line? So I just try to listen. Okay, I hope that answered your question. So yeah, I feel like you have to have a strong idea. When I was in college and I was just writing, whatever the heck I wanted, I don't know what you want to call it, music from a Christian worldview, but that wasn't explicitly Christian. I was writing a lot of story songs, and I thought a lot of songs that were good, but I think they weren't emotionally connecting with people because I didn't know what I wanted people to take away from it. And I think that's important to me as an artist too. Like, what not only am I enjoying creating for the joy of creating, but what am I trying to give to people that they can take and relate to? I want to make a connection, not just be creative to be creative and cool, but to make a connection with people.
That's really cool to hear that. And like, we always like hearing like how people come up with their song ideas or inspirations for songs. So that's one thing like Brett and I always bring up with artists, like, what gave you inspiration for this song or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's just shift gears for a minute. What's your favorite song you ever written and why?
My favorite song that I've ever written?
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
That's like, some people like have like a personal song and like,
yeah. Ooh, I don't know. Let me think. Okay, I'm gonna not answer your question completely. I'm gonna go by project. So if anyone wants to go check out Pariah, I think my favorite song produced from that album is Furnace of Affliction, because it's so weird. And I just love the production of that one. But personally, the song that I wrote, connected with the most, like on a personal level, was Secondhand Love. So that's a deeper cut from that project. With Beautiful, the EP that I just released, Blessed Are the Poor was my favorite because it's so jazzy, and that was really different, but I just loved the chords and how the words laid in that chorus. But to actually answer your question, the favorite song that I've ever written of myself, I haven't released yet. I wrote it in February. It was one of those like divine, it all came out in like half an hour. And it was like a song about my parents and my childhood. I keep telling people it was a song that took me over 30 years to write because it just had to stew that long. And then it all came out, and I'm probably not going to release it till next year, but I've recorded it. It's called Time Don't Last. I think I love writing songs about Bible people, but it was one of the few times recently that I've really connected a song just about me, from my life experience. And I'm proud of it. And every time I play it for people, they cry. So, I mean, that's, I feel like that's a songwriter's badge of honor if you can make people cry the second they hear something. So I'm excited about that.
Well, we can't wait to hear it.
Thanks.
For the people that are watching, make sure to check out Aryn's other work and wait to see the new work she's working on as well. Season. And you just recommend listening to Aryn. Braden, do you have a question?
Yeah, I also noticed just from following you for a while, because you do a lot of playlists too, and social media, TikToks, Instagram Reels, advertising new independent artists along with your music. And I love that. I discovered so many artists from that. But I wanted to ask, like, what's your motivation to do that, to highlight new artists that way? Because it's an awesome thing. It's one reason why we do the podcast. So I wanted to see like what's your motivation in doing that?
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. Really, my motivation is what you just said, like getting to share people that I find with other people. Okay, well, I'll answer honestly though. Back, I joined TikTok like in the pandemic when a lot of people did. And I also met with a marketing guy at the time who was like, you need to start creating your own playlist so you can put your music on there so people will find your music through playlists. So initially, in the very beginning, my playlisting was honestly like selfish motivation, like try to make something that people could find my music kind of the back way. But really, really quickly, I fell in love with indie Christian music. And I've got to be honest, like I didn't realize how much was out there until I started digging. And I spent several months just digging and digging and digging and following and like taking suggestions from TikTok, like tell me who I don't know about, and just digging and listening. And I just fell in love with indie Christian music. And then it was like, I have to tell people about all these artists who are not getting as much attention as I think they really creatively deserve because they're putting out such amazing stuff. And, again, it's not a slam against what's popular Christian radio or that sort of thing. But I think people just don't know a lot of it that's there because it doesn't get the same amount of press and coverage, and there's not enough, I'm an indie artist too. There's not enough money to buy press and coverage because it's expensive. So I love all of it. Like I listen to so much rap. Like, I love like Tori Deshawn and I like I don't know, Darla Balthazar, and I could just riff for Candace Coker. Like I just riff like all these artists that I've just Jeremy Licata that I've totally fallen in love with, and I'm like, I want everyone to listen to their music. Like I honestly half the time forget to pull my songs into my playlists anymore because I'm like, well, I want to make space for all these other people doing incredible things. So yeah, so my motivation now is I just love it. Like you guys do. Like I just love it, and I want more people to find out about it and connect with music that they love.
Yeah, that's like one of our big motivations is just meeting people, hearing their stories, sharing their stories. So that's kind of the platform, and we do it. And so like it's easier to do it over Zoom nowadays just because Zoom's a tool we can use. So easiest way to do it for us.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking time to feature my music. I know my stuff is pretty niche, so I really appreciate you guys taking time, giving attention to it. That means a lot to me.
Of course.
Of course, we have just a little bit more time because we don't want to take all day. And like sometimes when podcasts go for 45 minutes, people start to tune out. I just know people. Is there anything else you want to discuss, bring up? We have a couple extra minutes.
For me,
yes.
Like to share
like anything you want to talk about, bring up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think the thing that I always try, if I have space to speak, to leave people with, is the thing that I mentioned in the beginning, is whoever might be listening, whatever your creative outlet is, to just take some time to consider how God has uniquely made you, gifted you. What passion is he putting in your heart, but from a place of not trying to make yourself marketable or professionalizing up your image or crafting your image for how you want God to use you, but instead looking at who God's uniquely made you to be and just lean into that. And I think it's such a game changer for whatever you're doing, dentistry or momming or pottery or anything. Like I think it was so life-changing for me to just see who God made me to be and live into that. And so I hope to encourage people to do the same. And I know it's hard. It's hard to come up against that temptation that we feel, that worldly temptation. I want to be popular. I want, I don't necessarily think it's bad to want to reach people, like to be able to reach people. But as an indie artist, I feel like you have to bow down to that. I know this thing could maybe make a lot more streams or make a lot more money, but is it the thing that God's called me to do, to create, to write about? So I have to consistently lay that down and be like, no, God's called me to this kind of unique musical space, unique lyrical space, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And it's more important to connect with the few people who need that than it is to make myself maximum marketable. So I hope there's people out there who might hear this and be like, yeah, it's okay if I fill whatever space God's called me to, and He'll take it wherever it needs to go. That's kind of our jam in the indie. In the indie space is just, doing what you're supposed to do, and having faith that God will take it wherever it's supposed to go. So I hope that's an encouragement to someone.
Thank you for sharing that encouragement. Everyone, follow that encouragement. Think about it and everything. Brad, is there anything else you want to say or add before we wrap this up today?
Yeah, like what you said about indie artists, it's an amazing thing. Like for all these artists out there, it's one thing I constantly encourage them. It's that you're making an impact. Your story does matter. You have a voice. It may not be a radio voice. It might not be the voice that you might think you have, but God's got a plan with you. He's using you in amazing ways. And I love seeing indie artists just go out there and just kill it that way. Even if they don't have less than 1,000 followers, like your music's making impact. I know I've been impacted by so many artists with less than 1,000 followers, and it's amazing seeing them grow. It's amazing seeing that progress, and it's even more the ministry behind it all. So like indie Christian space is a beautiful thing. There's so many artists out there.
Mhm.
So definitely don't just stay in the K-Love genre. I definitely would encourage all artists, check out Aryn, check out so many others, and just dive into all the amazing music out there.
I agree with everything Brad said. I was gonna say, like indie, like there's a lot of people out there, like under the 1,000 listens and everything. So like you pretty much took everything I was gonna say. So that's probably why we work well together, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I can't stand that less than 1,000 streams on Spotify. I really want to petition them to put just like growing or something instead.
Yeah.
We need a better way to say like we're reaching out, we're getting there. I don't know. Stream counts in general are just kind of discouraging sometimes. So but it's the system we live in, and it's all good. But people like you guys are changing it and bringing attention to artists who are growing and reaching and being honest to their creative spirit. So I appreciate again what you're doing.
And again, thank you for joining us today. I know it's not the longest podcast, but we like to keep them short, sweet, just because, like I said, 40 minutes can be enough, and like 20 minutes is like ideal for podcasts, I guess. It's something I researched when I was making this podcast. I know it's random, but again, thank you to everyone that tuned in. Follow Aryn's social media. Aryn will post her links in our profile, so make sure you follow her, check out her new music when it comes out, and I hope you guys all have a great week.
Thank you so much.